Hypothetically, if you were to hijack a race of very powerful gods and for your own control and to disconnect them from their divinity, how would you do it? Because I think it's diabolically genius that, hypothetically, this imaginary world, I would disconnect them from their family system by requiring both of their parents to commit themselves to this voluntary, almost, slavery for their time, so that they don't have time to be able to raise their kids like they should. And this system of trauma is beat into these kids from a young age, so that the next generation, every generation is more screwed up than the last. And while doing this, while the kids are not being taken care of by the parents, they're put in these boxes. We call it education, but we really put their minds inside of these smaller boxes, put them in a physical box, put their minds in a smaller box, where we cut any imagination, we cut any of the powers, we disconnect them from everything, and we tell them to only follow this path and to be obedient. And it's psychologically like horrifying when you actually think about it. Like the schedules like is exactly like a prison. So you keep following this hypothetical too. You've limited by so much, and the way that you're taught things is showing you that nothing that you ever do will or ever will matter, because everything's already been created and discovered, and we know everything. So nothing that you do will ever matter. And that right there, by putting the mental in a box and making an entire race of gods obedient because you hijacked them from such a young age, and you cut off any amount of creativity or expression, anything like that, you cut it all off, and you decide that you have to follow this exact line and do these exact thing through peer pressure and societal pressures, so that you force everyone into this cone and you funnel them exactly where you want them, because the system is so diabolically geniusly created. And this is all hypothetical, but if you really take a step back and think about it, if you're told that nothing that you ever do matters, then that changes everything on how that society operates, because that disconnects them from their divinity, on top of the fact that you disconnect them from nature. They might be gods, but they're also animals. So you can disconnect them from the calmness, calming the nervous system to be able to activate and acquire and get into some of these abilities. Now I'm speaking very vaguely here. You can use your imagination when you just continuously put a race of God in a bunch of boxes. They do start to experience the zoo experience is for animals. And I think it's starting to collapse, hypothetically. But the whole point of this video is that you've been told, hypothetically, from a very young age, that nothing that you do matters. But that is intentional. Because if everyone decides to just ignore the things that they should do, or not take action, because they believe that nothing that they do matters, then nothing will ever change, because everyone believes that it doesn't matter. But it does matter. What you don't realize is that we have the power we've always had the power, and the people at the top fear that. That's why they tell us that we have no power. Nothing ever matters. But what they don't realize is that if every single person decides, even just half the people decide, to be the change that they want to see in the world, to start making actions aligned as such, and not just dishing, constantly throwing shit that they've been dealt at other people. We actually grow up and show up as we should, as we want to see in the world, the change that we want to see in the world. We decide that the people that don't deserve money don't get it. We all collectively boycott certain things. We all, even just 50%, because hypothetically those people really care about their minute numbers. And if the number goes down, maybe they'll have a wake-up call. Because the Great Awakening is here. And what we're realizing is that we have all power. We're starting to protect ourselves. We have the awareness now of what we must do. And everyone might not be on that level yet. But what they don't realize is that the power dynamic is shifting. The veil is lifting. The Great Awakening is here. We have the power. You have to believe that you are special, you matter, and everything that you do actually has an impact. Now, with knowing that, you have to know that everything you do has to be chosen consciously once you realize you have power. Because with great power comes great responsibility. And you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. One person can't change the world. 10,000 can and will, because that number will only grow. Now, I'm not saying that it'll always be sunshine and roses and effortlessly done. God, I can't talk. It won't be effortless. But what I can tell you is that the bigger the crowd grows, the bigger the defiant force on the other side grows. The propaganda system will continue. But the truth and good will always prevail. Because the truth is, we carry the power, and the good will prevail, no matter what. Think about that. The power is in your hands. The power is in our hands. What will we do with it, though?